Hey, you true believers. Chris Mack coming at you today with New Mutants issue 21. This is the first full appearance of Warlock. What do I mean by that is if we go back to issue 18, which was the beginning of the Demon Bear story arc with Dani, there is a little cameo where it shows Warlock crashing to Earth. So issue 18 is his first cameo appearance, but then, they ran in with the Demon Bear arc. So this is his first full appearance, and you get to kind of learn more about him and whatnot. So let's go ahead and dive into this. The print date on this book was November 1984. And what's really fun, to start off, this is a double-sized issue. So when you read this, it feels more like an annual. But I like how it starts out with a silhouette of the mansion, and we just see shadows in the dark with these devious-looking little eyes. And he goes, there it is. Professor Xavier's School for Gifted Youngsters. What's so special about them anyway? Bunch of stuck-up snobs, if you ask me. Nobody did, drip face. Yeah, and nobody asked you to come along either. Take off, see if we care. It's like awful lonely, awful dark. And you're thinking, what the hell is going on? And then you open it up and it says, Slumber Party. So it opens up a little, a little cheesy. But you got to remember that the New Mutants in this book, they're what? Ages 14 to 16, I think, is their age range. So, of course, they're going to want to have a party when Professor Xavier is out. Now, before we dive into this, the people responsible for this issue is Chris Claremont, writer, Bill Sienkiewicz doing the art, Tom Orzanowski doing, and Louis Buchholz doing the lettering, Glynis Wine, colorist, and Nasanti, editor, and Jim Shooter, editor-in-chief. So we got some big fracking names on this book. And for once, it's interesting because usually when you see Bill Sienkiewicz's work, you're kind of used to the more abstract style. So it's weird to kind of see him go more, realistic in this regard, which is, it's not bad. It's just different. Especially, we got Piopple. If you guys get the Family Guy reference, props to you. But I love how everyone looks like they're having fun. And then poor old Rain here in the back's just like, oh my God, what are we doing? Because you got to remember she was raised sort of in isolation in Scotland, right? I had to stop and think about that for a second. And so these are all friends from Salem Center. And I like that they actually reference here that Dani is still recuperating from the Demon Bear incident. So she's kind of wanting to get up. And she actually says, where is it? Hold on. Right here. Magik, Illyana saying, don't jinx it, don't try to get up and move too much. But she's like, I prefer being out of this wheelchair. That music's infectious. I want a boogie. And that makes me laugh because our kiddo, he's only 3. And so I'll put music on and he'll go, boogie. And so that just made me laugh to see that. But anyway, but that aside, you notice how their friends from Salem Center are a little standoffish in a regard. Like, what's the matter with you, Marcy? It's getting where we can't take you anywhere. And, they talk about how, they feel kind of weird being in Xavier's mansion. No one from Salem Center has ever really been to the school. Why are there only a handful of students, etc., so forth. So, the New Mutants are doing their best to try to put on this appearance that it's just a school. But, for example, I love here where, she goes, go ahead, Jenny. Make fun. You'll get yours. I'll bet anything they've got bodies are worse hidden in the basement. I like how you get this little bit of smoke. And then we flip, point of views, and it goes, Marcy, sometimes you're so dumb. I mean, really. And that reminds me of that dude from that, if you haven't gone on YouTube, it's an old video from a newscast, but this guy talking about people breaking in and I don't remember the context, but he goes, you're dumb. You're really, really dumb. And I just couldn't help but think of that when they were talking to Marcy here. But anyway, they go, half the students here are foreigners. Of course they're going to seem strange. And I like how it establishes that it's Lockheed. I miss Warlock. Chris Claremont, he created him along with Kitty. And it just seems like anymore, nobody really knows how to utilize Warlock like they used to, or Lockheed, the way that they used to. And he reminds me of my Chihuahua. She's very much a scamp like Lockheed. And then we get a moment with Magneto, which I'm not going to dive into. And I think one of the best parts, because here Rain, again, is feeling outcasted. She goes, to join my friends, they're having so much fun, but the things they're saying go against all I was ever taught by Reverend Craig. And if you remember, Reverend Craig was very cruel to her. She goes, my head tells me this isn't wicked or sinful, but in my heart, I still feel I'm doing wrong. And then there's a beat, and we see it, all these girls here, and they go, then we're agreed? You betcha, Illyana. And Rain's like, what? Why is everyone looking at me so? And then you turn the page, and of course, again, Illyana leading charge. Get her! And it reminds me of Ray from Ghostbusters when they're trying to figure out how to talk to that deceased librarian. And he goes, okay, follow my lead. Slowly, slowly. Get her! I don't know if that's where he got the inspiration, but I just love how she's just leading this charge. And poor Rain, because this is how she's used to people treating her, attacking her and belittling her. She goes, what are you doing? What do you want? Get away. Leave me be. And her hand immediately begins to go wolf form because she's having a PTSD moment, which is understandable because no one has given her a heads up. And if you remember, Dani kind of can sort of make this psychic rapport with everybody like Jean can. And so he's saying, calm down, girl. You're not in any danger. And Rain's like, I'm such a baby. I'm so sorry, Dani. I couldn't help myself. I was so scared. All of a sudden, it was like at school in Scotland when the other girls picked on me. And so we get this sort of dramatic moment, into Rain's past. But then, because they're friends, Illyana, Dani, etc., so forth, Illyana kind of brushes it off because Dani's saying, change your hand back before the other girls, the human girls, notice what you're doing. And then we get back into a little bit of levity because Illyana goes, okay, short stuff. We've had it with you being a frump. Like it or not, Rain Sinclair, we're going to turn you into a fairy princess. And so, to me, it's a little corny, but at the same time, Claremont was always good about giving you a break before really getting into the heavy stuff. Because if you think about it, we just went through 3 issues of the Demon Bear, and you're just boom, 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 boom. So this kind of gives you like the X-Men softball issues, essentially. This gives you a minute to breathe before more shit hits the fan. And while that's happening, what's their name? Bobby and Sam go to see a baseball game, and they're just kind of BSing, having a guy's night out. And I like how even though, I always like the, I don't think the dichotomy, if that's I get words confused, but you gotta remember I haven't had enough coffee this morning. But basically the difference between Roberto and Sam, how Roberto always has more of this pridefulness about him, as where Sam is just more of a laid-back hillbilly boy. And so here they're talking about baseball, etc., so forth, and Sunspot turns into his powers, and he goes, you think maybe the Mets can have me be their pitch hitter? And he hits a freaking boulder out into the sky, and Sam's like, Bobby, you dumb cluck. That may have hit that sucker a county mile, but suppose somebody's underneath it when it lands. So I like how even though they have 2 completely different personalities, they become really close friends. And the way that they're able to talk to one another about their fathers, how Roberts has joined the Hellfire, which was the evil entity that was responsible for the death of his girlfriend. And then Sam talking about how he lost his father in one of the mine collapses. And Sam says, at least your father's still alive. You have time to try to sort things out with them. And then they get back to the mansion. And this is funny. Because Sam just goes, excuse me, miss. Who's this gal? She's gorgeous. Can we please speak with Dani or Illyana or Amara or Rain? And this is more how you're used to seeing Rain in later issues because, she looks a little more grown up. But this is the first time I actually see her as not looking more like a not so sure of herself individual. And I just love how she goes, Sam Girthy, you ignorant, uncaring, insensitive, dull-witted clod. And she just full-on wolf form wonk. I hate you. I never want to see your ugly face again. And then they slam the door in their faces because they basically say no boys allowed. So the guys have to go back out and basically wait for the party to end. And this is where we see a meteor comes crash on the Earth. And this is where we kind of expound on the introduction of Warlock. Because he crashed to Earth in issue 18, as I just said. And this kind of expounds on it. And they bring the meteor that Warlock's encased in. I sound like Forrest Gump there for a minute. He's encased in, Johnny, to let Professor X figure out what it is. And here I love the line work of his eyes that Sienkiewicz does. And all of a sudden, you get this cacophony of lines, and he goes, awareness. And here, I love this lack of color. It really shows how Warlock is trying to find energy to feed himself. And he's just scanning, and finds a plug, and electrocutes himself, essentially. I love this look of like, oh my God! It's just so funny, but it kills all the power in the house. Now, to go back to kind of like the emotionalness, Rain actually feels bad for what she did to Sam, because Dani's trying to explain they didn't recognize you because they just saw a beautiful young girl instead of this insecure little mouse that's been around the mansion forever and ever. And Sam's like, oh, and I punched him. What a doofus I am. And so it's just, I love how they give you a moment getting into everybody's powers. But they do realize that there's an intruder in the house. And the first thing they do is attack because they're so used to being on the defense that they don't realize that Warlock is there trying to save himself from his father, Magus. And so this big-ass fight ensues. Sunspot finds out that they can hurt him, where, if it bleeds, we can kill it. Snaps one of his powers in two, and Warlock goes on the offense. And Dani's actually the one that finds out that he's terrified of his father and is seeking sanctuary, which kind of changes Rain's mindset, because as we get towards the end of the story, Rain says that if we don't save him, then we go against everything the New Mutants stand for, because Rain sees herself in Warlock, people attacking her, not understanding her. Because at this point, Warlock can't speak the human language like he can later. And this is where they bring Doug Ramsey to the mansion and actually explain to him that he's a mutant and that the Xavier's Institute is for mutants. And Doug is not real happy, but it actually clicks with him on how he's able to decipher all these different languages. And you can see that that's kind of how they create the friendship between Doug Ramsey and Warlock. And it's a really poignant, very great read here. And I don't want to give it away, but in the end, I love how Charles Xavier comes back to the mansion, being destroyed. And Dani's just like, oh, or not Dani, Illyana, she goes, oh, hi, Professor. I got a story to tell you. But yeah, this is where Warlock also joins the New Mutants. And then what's also really cool about this book, and why I said it makes me feel like it's an annual, is we get these Professor X journal entries about the New Mutants. So on this one, it focuses on Sam, Illyana, and Berto. And it's really interesting the way Claremont looks in Professor Xavier's point of view as a teacher, and the struggles of these three individuals, of what he can do for them. Can he do anything for them? So guys, this was an excellent issue. If you can find a copy, highly recommend picking it up. As I said, yeah, the slumber party part's kind of corny, but it gives you a moment to breathe after the Demon Bear arc, and it just kind of helps lead into the misunderstanding between the New Mutants and Warlock and how they eventually become teammates. So if you've enjoyed this comic book, please first and foremost support your local comic shop and see if you can find a copy. If you have enjoyed this review, we really would appreciate if you take a moment to hit like, share, and subscribe. Helps the club channel more than you could possibly know. And if you won't mind hitting that fancy little X bell next to subscribe, that way as we continue to upload content, you guys will get notified. Come to the channel, and we love talking with you all and hearing your thoughts and feedback down in the comments below, or our social media pages, which I'll make sure to leave the links down in the description. So with all that said, thank you so much for stopping by. Hope you all continue to have an absolutely amazing day reading, and happy hunting, true believers.